begin the Gemara today on Daf Zayin Amud Aleph, 3 lines down from the bottom of the Amud. This goes back to a Braisa that the Gemara brought before on Daf Bava Metzia. The Braisa spoke about the halacha of Meiser Behema. Meiser Behema, you take the animals that you have 10 animals, and you put them in a barn together, and then you walk out in a single file line, and the 10th animal that you hit with a red stick becomes Meiser. So the Braisa there said, if you have a suffix, an animal which is sveikis, meaning it might not even belong to you, it might belong to the kayin, it might be a b'chair. You also include it in this, in the animals that you're taking the Meiser Behema from it. So before in the Gemara, the discussion was, if it's a suffix, so then it might not even belong to you. How could you include it in with all the animals of Meiser Behema? So the Gemara's conclusion based on that was that because it's now in your possession, you are the muchzik. Therefore, the halacha is hamaitzi mechaveroi olavaraya. If the kayin wants to take it from you, he would have to prove that it's actually a b'chair, and he can't prove it. And even if the kayin would grab it, takfe kayin, we would take it away from the kayin and return it to the Yisrael. So therefore, right now, the status of the monetary ownership of this behema is yours. And therefore, even though it's a suffix, but because it's now in your possession, you could include it together with all the other animals to take the Meiser Behema from this. Okay, so now all of that we explained is regarding the monetary ownership of it. And therefore, it's your monetary ownership, so you can take the Meiser Behema. Here, the Gemara is going to focus on a different aspect of this. A b'chair, besides the monetary ownership of the kain, it also has a certain level of kedusha. Kedusha, it's brought in the mizbeach, you're not allowed to share the wool, you're not allowed to just work with it. So if it has kedusha to it, and there's a suffix, it might be a b'chair, might have kedusha, might not. Mitzad that, why are you including it together with all the other animals for Meiser Behema? There's no Meiser Behema for an animal that has kedusha of a b'chair in it. So that's what the Gemara focuses on. Let's see. My sfeikis. What does the Braisa mean when it says that these sfeikis, the suffix b'chair, you take together in the barn for the Meiser Behema? Ilaim is suffix b'chairis. If you're going to translate that, it means an animal which is a suffix b'chair, suffix of a firstborn, which belongs to the kayin, and also has to be brought in the mizbeach, has kedusha on it. If so, yia kaidish amar rachmana. Regarding the Meiser Behema, the Torah says that 10th one becomes holy. From this we learn out v'loisha kvar kadish. Something that's already holy from before. It's not included together with the animals to take Meiser Behema from it. It can't become Meiser Behema. It's already holy. So over here, in this case, since there's a suffix, this could already be Kaidish. So how can you include it together with the animals of Meiser Behema? Answers the Gemara, Ella, it must be, when it's said here that we're including it, the Sveikis, what kind of suffix are we referring to? Suffix Pidyon Petach Hamor. This is an animal which is a suffix that it might belong to the kayin because you had a firstborn of a chamayr, of a donkey, and there what you have to do is that you have to give the kayin a lamb, instead of that donkey. Now that lamb belongs to the kayin. There's no kedusha to it. It's not brought in the mizbeach. It's a gift for the kayin. So, but it's a suffix though if it belongs to the kayin, because the chamayr, the donkey that was born, is a suffix. So this suffix pidyon petach chamayr, there's no kedusha in this. And regarding the monetary ownership, because it's in the possession of the Yisrael, so therefore the Yisrael has the chazakeh, so therefore you could include it together with the Meiser Behema. Rav Nachman explained this. Yisrael sheyesh lo yasara safik pitrei chamer b'toich pesay. A Yisrael, even if he has 10 animals, 10 lambs, and all of them are a suffix, whether he has to give it to the kayin as an exchange for the firstborn donkey. And he has all of them in his house. Mafresh aleya and asaresen. So he has these 10 donkeys that might be the firstborn that he has to now exchange with lambs to give to the kain. So he has to separate these 10 lambs instead of these 10 donkeys. But then ma'isran. And he also takes Meiser Behema from this. And then he keeps it for himself. Because he has the chazak in it. If it's a suffix, it's in his possession, he has the chazak over it, and there's no union of kedusha involved over here. This is the set, again, the set that you give in exchange for the petach chamayr is a gift for the kain. So since there's no union of kedusha over here, this could be used for Meiser Behema. Okay, that's the explanation of that braisa. Now, the Gemara goes back to the shaila that was brought up before regarding a masusa. Masusa was the bathhouse. The case of the bathhouse was, there were two people that were arguing about the ownership of this bathhouse, and one of them just got up and declared that the bathhouse is hektish. It's giving it away to hektish. So all the chachamim decided they're not going to use the bathhouse because possibly he has the ability to be makdish it. And the basis of the Gemara had a Shiloh, whether he has the ability to be makdish this or not. And the basis of the Gemara Shiloh was, since this is a situation where nobody has any evidence that it belongs to him, what's the halacha in such a case? Kol dolam gova. Whoever grabs it could keep it. So if either one of them could grab it and keep it, so if one of them goes ahead and is makdish it, maybe that works. Since he has the power to grab it, even before he grabs it, he has enough of a level of ownership and possession over it that he's able to be makdish it. So if he declared it hektish, it takes effect. So the Gemara now wants to know, what's the conclusion regarding this? Does he have the power to be makdish it even before he grabbed it for himself, possessed it for himself? Ma'yavi Allah masusa. So what's the halacha here regarding this bathhouse? Tashema, so the Gemara brings it high. Dom Rav Chia bar Ravin. Rav Chia bar Ravin said, Hava ovde bei Rav Chisda. There was a story like this by Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda bei Rav Huna, and Rav Chisda brought and asked this question by Rav Huna. Upashta mehadam Rav Nachman. And he resolved this shaila based on what Rav Nachman said. Rav Nachman said, Kol momen, anytime you have any money or any possession, she'ein yochel lo yitziyah b'dayanim, where you don't have the power to take it, to possess it, in a bezdin, by judges, you don't have evidence to prove that it's yours, and therefore the bezdin is not going to give it to you, higdishay ein a kaddish. If you declare it hektish, it's not going to be hektish. So basically, he's saying is, over here regarding this masusa, none of them had any evidence that it's theirs. They had the ability maybe to go ahead and grab it and possess it, kol dolam gova, but they had no evidence that it's theirs. So therefore, the fact that you could just grab it because of kol dolam gova is not enough of an ownership that you could declare it hektish. So the hektish doesn't take effect. But now the Gemara is medayik this. We understand from what Rav Nachman is saying over here that if this is something that there's a suffix about, there's an argument about, but you have the ability to prove that it's yours, you go to dayanim, to judges and the bezdin, you will be able to prove that it's yours. So then, hikdisha, even before you proved it's yours, if you are makdish it, kaddish, it'll be hektish, avagav delayafke, even before you took it out, even before you possessed it. But the Gemara wants to know, how could that be? Rabbi Yechon said the following rule: Gazal v'loinis yashua bailem. If you steal something and the owner did not give up on it, then shnei menim yochalim lakdishay. The owner cannot declare it hektish, and the gazlan that has it now physically in his possession, they cannot declare it hektish. Zel if yisheni shaloi. The gazlan can't because it's not his, and v'zel if yisheni b'rishusay. And the original owner can't because he doesn't have it now in his possession. So if so, in our case as well, over here you don't have it in your physical possession, b'chlal. Even if you could be mitziyad b'dayanim, even if you have proof for it, but if you didn't possess it yet, the other person is holding onto it, the other person is grabbing onto it in his hands, and you don't have it, so then how could you be makdish this? So the Gemara answers, Mi savres b'matuse metaltle askinon. Do you think we're talking about a bathhouse, which is this movable shower? I don't know what it is. Some kind of a movable item that the other person is possessing it, and you don't have it in your possession. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a bathhouse which is built into the ground in a house. If it's something that you have clear evidence that it's yours, then wherever it is, you don't have to physically grab hold of it in order to possess it, in order for it to be yours. If you have the clear evidence that it's yours, so then wherever it is, you have a possession over it, and you're able to be makdish it right away. So therefore, that's a conclusion that over here regarding this masusa. In the story before, there was no evidence about this, so therefore they couldn't be makdish it. So I mean, according to this, it comes out that the Amiroim, Rav Chananya, Rav Aishia, they stayed away from this bathhouse after it was makdish it. It was just a midas chassidus, or maybe they didn't know this conclusion over here that Rav Nachman, that they proved based on what Rav Nachman said. But really, the hektish didn't take effect at all. And it's the same thing also regarding the other shaila the Gemara asked regarding a talis. Regarding the case of a talis, where one of them just went ahead and declared it to be hektish, and the other person was quiet while you did that. So even though if you would have grabbed the talis and the other person would have been quiet, he was quiet in the beginning, your grabbing would have been effective that you can keep it, according to one opinion. But if you've been makdish it will not take effect. Because you don't have a raya that it's yours, you can't be mitzvah b'dayanim, just being makdish it will not take effect. That's the conclusion when you get to both of those shilas. No, over here in the story that we had before wasn't Yochel Tzibah, but if it would have been, if it would have been Thank you. If it would have been Yachal Etzi B'Dayanim, then then the halacha would have been that the hektish would have taken effect. If it's a metaltalin, then you don't have any possession over it. Even if you Yachal Etzi B'Dayanim, but the other guy is grabbing onto it, and you'll go to the Bezdin, you'll bring a raya that it's yours, but you still won't be able to get it out of that person. He'll hide it, he'll possess it. So the fact that you have a raya, it doesn't help anything. A piece of karka, though, if you yachal etzi b'dayanim, it's right there. He can't take it away from you. So it's like you're possessing it right away. Okay, now the Gemara goes back to the Mishnah. Another halacha in connection to the din of shnai meichsim betalis. Tani Rav Tachlifa bar Marave kamei de Rabavo. Rav Tachlifa bar Marave in front of Rabavo taught the following halacha: Shnai madukim betalis. Two people that are grabbing onto a talis, and each one claims that it's all his. Zeh noitul ad makim sheyodim magas. V'zeh noitul ad makim sheyodim magas. Each one of them gets the part of their talis that their hands are actually holding on to, till where his hand reaches. Vashar chelkin. And then the rest that they're not holding in their hands, that's divided. That you divide equally between them. But the part that each one is holding on to, that percent, each one gets what he's holding on to. That's not divided equally. It's divided according to what they're holding on to. Rabavo, when this halacha was taught, Rabavo showed with his hands that this has to be done with a shvua. Here, right away. Has to be with a shvua. What did Rabavo show? Rabavo pointed with his finger up to Shemayim. He was pointing that you have to make a shvua about this. When you make a shvua, you say the Eibish's name. So he pointed up to Shemayim that you have to make a shvua when you take this talis. This was the halacha that Rav Tachlifa taught. So the Gemara asks, so now what's the pshat in our Mishnah? The Ketani, in our Mishnah it says, the Palgi Ba'adodi, that when two people hold on to a talis, you don't take according to what you're holding on to. You just divide it equally amongst them. It doesn't say each one takes till where their hands reach. What is our Mishnah talking about? Rav Papa answers the tfisi b'karkashta. In our Mishnah, each one of them is only holding on to the fringes of the talis. They're not holding on to the actual garment itself. If they were holding on to the garment itself, each one gets according to what he's holding on to. But in our Mishnah, they're only holding on to the karkashta. When you hold, the point is, when whatever you're holding on to is in your possession and it's yours. That what you're holding on to, we don't need Bezdin to divide it. That is yours, and therefore you keep it. But if you're not holding on to the talis itself, they're both holding on to the fringes of the talis, so that's considered that they're holding on to the talis, but it's not physically in your hands. Over there, the halacha is that you divide it equally.
Why the part you're holding yours? And it says it's his.
No, but that's the holding of a chazaka, though. It's in your possession. The klal is by metaltalin, anything that you hold on to in your possession, chazaka, it's yours. What's in your possession is yours. So the part that's physically in your hands, that's totally yours. The other person's taina is worthless, as we don't pay attention to it. Now Rav Misharshi said, based on this, so here we see this point, that two people are holding on to a talis. The part that you're holding on to is completely yours, and the fact that there's someone else holding on to the other part of the talis, that doesn't change that your part that you're holding on to is like completely cut off and totally yours. So therefore, Misharshi says, Shema Minah, from this we could learn. Hi Sudra. Hey, so here the Gemara is talking about a handkerchief that's used in the kinyan of Chalipin, or it's also called kinyan Sudar. What's the kinyan of Chalipin? It's like what you do by every l'chaim. When you have a buyer and he wants to buy without having a complicated kinyan, you take a handkerchief, the buyer takes a handkerchief of his, he gives it to the seller, and he picks it up, the seller picks up this handkerchief, and then in exchange, you buy the object from him. So now this handkerchief, Kivin the toughest bay, Shalish al Shalish, if the buyer is giving the handkerchief to the seller, and he doesn't let go. The buyer doesn't let go of it, and the seller picks it up together with the buyer. If he picked up this handkerchief together with him, it's going to be a kinyan. As long as the seller is going to hold on to 3 by 3 finger breadths of this garment, of this handkerchief. Karina Bey, we say regarding this, that you gave it to your friend. This is the lashon of the pasuk that it says there, the source of this kinyan chalipin. This is a pasuk in Rus, which says shalaf ishnala, you took off your shoe, v'nosan l'reyeyu, and you give this shoe to your friend, and in exchange, you buy something from him. That's the source of the kinyan of chalipin. So v'nosan l'reyeyu, when you give him this garment or this handkerchief, even though you're still holding on to it, but the portion that he's holding on to it, he's also holding on to it. That portion that he's holding on to is his. Just like we say over here regarding Shnai Madukim Metalis, that each one of them is holding on to this talis, the portion that the other person's holding on to is totally his. So here Rashi says, though, the Gemara adds a detail of shalish al shalish, that he has to hold on to 3 by 3 finger breadths. That we don't learn out from the talis here. But that's because regarding the tumah, we see that any garment that's smaller than 3 by 3 finger breadths is not considered to be anything. It's not the minimum. It's not called a beged b'chlal. So over here, you have to, for the kinyan of chalipin to take effect, there has to be at least 3 by 3 finger breadths. The command, the pasuk dami. It's as if that part that the buyer now, or the seller rather, is holding on to, it's as if it's cut off. The kani, and therefore the kinyan will take effect. What asks on this? This is the halacha that we're learning out regarding the kinyan of a sudr, chalipin. But in my shnama Rav Chisda, why would this be any different from what Rav Chisda taught regarding a get? Rav Chisda teaches regarding a man that gives his wife a get biyada. He gives her the get, u'mishicha biyada. But there's still a string attached. He's holding on to a string that's attached to this get in his hands. So what's the halacha? Did he properly give her the get that she's divorced? When he's still, this is where the expression comes from. When there's still strings attached, or not? So now, if with those strings that the husband still has in his hands, he's able to pull the get back, so she's not divorced. But if he can't pull it back, then she's divorced. So over here you see, even though she's holding the entire get in her hands, but just because you have those strings in your hands, she's not going to be divorced. But we just said that if 2 people are holding on to something together, we consider it as if it's cut. What's in one person's hands is his, what's in the other person's hands is his. There's no connection anymore. Why don't we apply the same thing by the get? And says the Gemara, it's a different story. Hasam krisus binon. Over there, you see in the lashon of the pasuk, sefer krisus, you have to divorce your wife in such a manner that it's completely severed, totally cut off from the giver, from the husband. And veleke. So in this case, if he has a string that he can schlep to get back, so there's no krisus. Hacha nisina binon. Here the Torah uses the expression v'nosan l'reyayu, that when you make this kinyan, you give a handkerchief or some item. And when you give, and the seller holds a portion of it in his hands, you gave him something. That portion he's holding in his hands, and therefore the kinyan takes effect. Omar Rava. Rava said another halacha regarding...
If you're holding the handkerchief on 2 sides, is it the same story as the divorce with the screen?
It is the same Metzias. But over here, the fact that he can pull it away from you doesn't matter. By a get, because it has to be a complete, you have to give it and it can be totally severed, the fact that he could pull it back matters. But by a gift, if you allow the other person to grab hold of it, even if you're still holding on to it, it's considered to be what he has, he has. Rava says, another halacha, im hoisa talis musheves. If this talis that we're talking about that has to be divided between them, has gold embroidery on it, or it's woven with gold in it, chelkin, you divide it between them. You divide it, the gold is divided equally between them. So the Gemara asks in this pshita, obviously, and if you're dividing the talis, you're going to divide the value of the gold also equally between them. Says the Gemara, the gold is in the middle of this talis that they're both holding on to on the sides of it. In fact, the Gemara on Ami pshita, it's still obvious that when you divide it equally between them. Why should it matter? The fact that there's gold in the middle, why should I give it to one more than the other? And so the Gemara, where we need this halacha that Rava was saying over here is the mikrav legabi dechad, that this gold that there is in this talis is closer to one side of the talis that one of them is holding on to. Mao the teime, I would think to say the amale ploig hachi. So this one that has the gold closer to him says to his friend, we're going to divide the talis, we're going to cut it down the middle, that the gold's going to end up on my side. Kamash Malan, that's what Rav is saying, that it doesn't work that way. The Amalei, his friend tells him, my chaz is the palgas hachi, ploig hachi. Why are you dividing it in this direction? Let's say in the length of the talis, where the gold that's closer to one ends up just by him. Cut the talis down the width of it, and then you'll cut straight through the center of where the gold is, and half will be to one, and half will be the other. So when you divide the talis, you divide it according to the value of what the talis is. You don't divide it physically down one place in the middle where one person ends up with more and the other one ends up with less. We learned in the Braise, two people that are grabbing onto a star. And these are the 2 people that the Braise is talking about here is a malva and a loiver. The lender and the borrower, they're both grabbing onto a star that was found. And what are they arguing about? Malvaim, the lender says, Shalihu, this star is mine. I have the star in order to collect my loan from you. I lost it, and I'm the one that found it. and the star has in it the value of a loan, $1,000 to collect. It's all mine. You never paid me yet, and I want to collect my loan with it. The loiva says, "Shachahu, yeah, it was your star, but I already paid you the loan, and now the star fell from me. I already paid you, and therefore I have the star in my possession." So what you have to do is, so if the Malve could verify the signatures of this star, then right now the Gemara understands that you verify the signatures of the star, and the Malve, the lender, gets the star, and he can use the star to collect the entire loan with it. Divrei Rebbe, this is Rebbe's opinion. Okay, so now, just before we go to Gemara Vayta, this concept of Yiskayim Shtar B'Chaismav, a star that has signatures on it, there's Chachamim or Masakin that there's a concern that maybe the signatures are forged. So in order to be able to collect with the star, you have to bring proof that the signatures on the star are authentic. There are different ways how you could authenticate the signatures, but you have to bring proof that it's authentic. So Rebbe is saying, once you prove that this star is a good star, so now we give it back to the Malva. He gets the entire thing. We don't split it between them. That's what it seems like Rebbe is saying. Rav Gamliel says, no yachloiku. We divide it between them. They're both grabbing onto it. This is similar to Shnai Meichs and Betalis. If the Leiva and Malva are grabbing onto the star, so we divide it between them. If this star that was lost fell into the hands of a dayan, into the hands of a judge, it's a simple pshat here. Lo yitzir lamis. So this dayan does not give it to either one of them. Doesn't give it to anyone. Gemara is going to explain what's the significance of this, that it fell into the hands of a dayan. Gemara will explain the pshat differently. Rabbi Yosi says, Hareu b'cheskasai. Even when it falls into the hands of a dayan, no, the star is still a good star. The star could still be used. We could return it to the Malva, and he could collect the money with it. Okay, so first the Gemara explains the machlokes between Rebbe and Rav Shimon Gamliel. Omamar, the master here said, Yiskayim Shtar B'Chaismav, that you would take the star and we verify the signatures of the star, and then you can collect it all. In fact, the Gemara, V'Govile Malve Kule. According to Rebbe, what is he saying? Once you verify the signatures of the star, so now the Malva gets the whole thing, and you can collect the entire loan with this. The last lay masnisin. Does Rebbe not hold of what it said in our Mishnah? When two people hold on to a talis, so then we split it amongst these people. So why don't we apply the same thing regarding the star? If the loive and malva are grabbing onto a star, why shouldn't we split the star between them? Like Rav Shimon Gamliel said. So Rav answers and explains Rav Nachman, the name of Rav Nachman, like this. 2 points. First of all, when you verify this star, so then what Rebbe meant to say is not that if you're going to verify it, we give it all to the Malva and he can collect the entire thing. Once you verify the star, Rebbe was saying that then the Malva will get only half of the loan of the star. That's what Rebbe was saying. If you verify it, you get half. But if you don't verify it, you get nothing. The Malva cannot use the star to collect at all from it. And on that, Rav Shimon Gamliel was arguing and saying that even if you don't verify the star at all, then in this case, you can still split the star between them, and the Malva can still collect half. That's what the machlekes is. So yeah, you do split it between them. But the question is whether you split it between them only when there's a verification of the signatures of the star, or even without. So Kipligi, when's the machlekes over here? Regarding the star, when it's not mekuyim, whether we allow them to collect, whether we allow the Malva, that is, to collect half with the star. Rebbe's opinion is as follows. Even after the loive here admitted that the star is an authentic star, that the star was written, right? Because what's the case over here? The loive is saying, I admit that the star was written. All he's claiming is that he paid it up. He's not saying that this whole star is a forgery. He's saying that it was paid up. In such a case where the loive admitted that the star was written, tzarech l'kaimai, you still are going to have to authenticate. You're still going to have to verify the signatures on the star. Otherwise, you cannot use it to collect from it. The loive will have the ability to claim that it was paid up. If you're going to verify the signatures of the star, then polig. That's when Rebbe says you're going to split this star. But if you don't verify the star, loy polig, then you do not split the star at all. The star is garbage. The Malva cannot collect with the star at all. My time. What's the reason for this? And now the Gemara is going to explain now why should you not be able to collect with the star, even before you verify the signatures of the star. Didn't the loiva himself admit that the star is a real star? Yeah, they're arguing between them. They're both grabbing onto it. The Malva says that I didn't collect the loan from the star. The loiva says I did, but the loiva is admitting that it's a real star. So what's the point of verifying it? So the Gemara explains the reason is chaspe ba'al mahu. This shtar, if there's no verification, it's like a piece of broken earthenware. Chachamim instituted that every shtar without a verification of the signatures, we don't trust it, we can't collect from it. So now, man kamashvile lahai shtore, who is the one that's giving the validity to this shtar? Loive. It's the loive the one. You're basing the validity of the shtar just on the fact that the loive admitted that it's a real shtar. But hakama de periya, he himself though is claiming that the shtar was paid up. So this is what's basically called in other places hapesha osar hu hapesha hitter. If he's the one that's giving the whole validity of the shtar, so then you have to listen to what he's saying, that it was paid up. He could have just said, this shtar, I don't recognize this shtar is garbage, and then you wouldn't be able to collect a penny with it. So now when you're basing the validity of the shtar just on this loive, so then he's coming and telling you that yes, it's a valid shtar, but it was paid up already. So therefore, without a kiyum, an independent verification of the shtar, where you're not relying on the loive, so you can't collect with the shtar anything. However, Rav Shimon Gamliel's opinion is, once the loive admits that this shtar is a kosher shtar, there's no need for any additional verification. We now know that it's a kosher shtar. The loive has no ability, no right to claim that it was paid up. And therefore Rav Shimon Gamliel says, even if you don't verify the signatures of the shtar, the din of yachleiku of the Mishnah that you divided between the malva and the loive applies. That's the explanation of the machlekes of Rabbi and Rav Shimon Gamliel. Now the Gemara explains the second part of the brayse, the argument over here between the Tanakame and Rabbi Yosi, when it says nafal yad dayan, when this shtar was found by a dayan. Says the Gemara, nafal yad dayan lo yitzia lamis. If the shtar fell into the hands of a dayan, so then you don't take it out of the hands of the dayan forever. So the Gemara wants to understand what's going on over here. Maishna yad dayan. What's unique about the fact that when it falls into the hands of a judge, then I say that we can't use the shtar at all? What's different if a dayan finds it, if any person finds it? Amarove, so Rav explains, hachi kamar. This is how you have to read the brayse. It doesn't mean just a dayan. Va'achar shemotza shtar shenafal yad dayan. Anybody that finds a shtar. So till here the brayse was speaking about a case with the loiv and the malva, the lender and the borrower, they both found this shtar and they're both holding on to it. But what happens if it's just a third party? A person finds a shtar, and the shtar was nafal yad dayan. What does nafal yad dayan mean? Vehechi dami. What does that mean? The kasav bei handpick. That this shtar was already verified. The verification of the signatures of a shtar is called a handpick. When the Bezdin verifies the shtar, they write into the shtar that we, Bezdin, saw this shtar and we verified the signatures, so it's written into the shtar that Bezdin already verified it. So even though this is for sure a kosher shtar with proper signatures, lo yitzia lamis. Nevertheless, this person that finds the shtar cannot give it back to the malva to collect money with it. Why? The concern is that if it was lost, it could be that it was already paid up. And that's why the malva lost it. And we'll see later, the Gemara is going to explain about this concept. But the point of it is we're concerned that it was paid up already, and therefore if a third person finds it, you can't collect with it anymore. And that's even if the shtar was fully verified with good signatures. And v'loi mi baya, and needless to say, loi kasav behempik, if the shtar was not properly verified the signatures, so in such a case, for sure, if a third person finds it, he shouldn't give it back to the malva. Dekalamema kasav lulva is v'loi lava. So then it's even possible that the shtar was written to prepare to be used for a loan, but you never even borrowed money with it. The chiddush over here is when it says nafal yad dayan, that even if there is a hempik, even if there is a verification for the shtar that the money was borrowed, the mikuyim lo yachzir, or return it, the chashin lepiroin, because we're concerned that maybe the money was paid up already, so you can't give it back to the malva to collect again. And on that, Rabbi Yosi argues. Rabbi Yosi says, "Harei b'chaskasei." That this shtar, even though it fell and someone else found it, but nevertheless the shtar still has its original status, that the money was not paid up yet. We're not concerned that it was paid up, and therefore we give it back to the malva to collect the money of the loan again. That's the machlokes of the Tanakame, the Rabbanon and Rabbi Yosi regarding the shtar that's found. Are we concerned that the shtar, the money was paid up already or not? How could you say this? Is Rabbi Yosi not concerned when a document that's lost and then it's found that we're not concerned that it was paid up yet? Vatanya, we learned in the Braise, Motza shtar ksube b'shuk. A person finds a ksube in the marketplace. So what does he do with this ksube? Does he give it to the wife? Does he give it to the husband? If the husband is admitting that he did not pay it up yet, you give it back to the woman that she could collect now with the star. But if the husband is arguing, the husband is saying that no, I paid it up already, so you don't give it back to anybody. The husband cannot collect with it anymore. He can't. The woman that is cannot collect her ksubim money with this anymore. Right, so this is the Tanakama here. The Rabbanan say that if the husband is arguing, we're concerned that it was already paid up, and you can't give it back to the isha to collect again. Rabbi Yosi says there's another distinction here that you have to make about this. If she's still married to the husband, then yachsalisha, you give it back to her, because the assumption is if she's still married that the husband didn't pay her up the ksuba. The ksuba is made to pay up if he divorces her or she becomes an almana. But if it was nisar maloi in his garsha, if this ksuba was found after she became an almana, she was divorced, then you don't give it back to anybody because we're concerned that the husband paid it up already. So really you see over here that the Tanakama and Rabbi Yosi as well, Rabbi Yosi holds a ksuba that's found after she's divorced or she's an almana, we're concerned that it was paid up already. So you don't return it to her. So how could we say before that Rabbi Yosi says when a third person finds a star of a loan that we can give it back and we're not concerned for any payment? Answers the Gemara, Eipach. We have to switch the opinions over here. And we have to read the previous brayse as follows. A star that was already authenticated, that's the pshat of Nafal Yadayin, as the Gemara explained before. If someone finds a star that's already a valid star, we're concerned that it was paid already, so lo yitzia lamis. You can't give it back to the malveh. Divrei Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi Yosi is the one that was concerned about this. But Chachamim say, no, we're not concerned that the star was paid up, and you can give it back to the malveh. But the Gemara asks, if you switch the opinions, you don't gain much. Because so now we have a contradiction in the Rabbanan's opinion. Because even the Rabbanan say that in a case where the husband claims that he already paid up, we're concerned that that's true, and we don't give back this ksuba to the Isha. So, and here Rabbanan say that you do give it back. So the Gemara explains like this. Shtar ksuba, that brayse that we just quoted about the story of this ksuba that got lost, Kula Rabbi Yosi. There's no Rabbanan in that brayse. That brayse is really all Rabbi Yosi speaking. The Chasuri Mechsere, and there's words missing in that brayse. V'hachi Ketani, and this is how you have to read that brayse. That if the ksuba got lost, now Era Bal Maide, if the husband does not admit that he did not pay yet, you can't return it to any of them. You can't return it to the Isha. She shouldn't collect it again. And on that, the Braisa adds, when is this the case? If the ksuba was found after the husband died or after he divorced her. If she's still married to her husband, then you give it back to the wife, and she should be able to collect with it. Why is that? So the Bachir adds in, Divrei Rabbi Yosi. This is all Rabbi Yosi speaking. Rabbi Yosi is the one that made this distinction. If the ksuba was found when she's still married, so you give it back to her to collect her ksuba. If it was found after she was divorced or the husband died, you can't give it back because Rabbi Yosi is concerned that it may have been paid up already. But the Rabbanan disagree. The Rabbanan, as we saw, the Gemara switched the opinions. In the previous brayse, and in this case as well, the Rabbanan hold that we're not concerned that it was paid up yet. That's one answer. Rav Papa says another answer. You don't have to exchange the opinions like we said before. Really, Rabbi Yosi is the one that's not concerned that a star was paid up. You can give it back. Now over here in this brayse, when Rabbi Yosi says that if it was before, he makes a distinction if it was when she's still married or after the divorce. Rabbi Yosi l'devreim the Rabbanan kamalahu. Rabbi Yosi, he's not saying his own opinion in this brayse. Rabbi Yosi is never concerned that it was paid up. Rabbi Yosi is saying to the Chachamim, you according to your opinion. Lididi, my opinion, Rabbi Yosi says, is a fill in his armaloi in his garsha. Even if this get, or this ksuba rather, was found after the divorce, after the husband died, nami lechashin lepiran. We're not concerned that it was paid up at all. But lididchu, according to your opinion, you should agree to me, that if it was found in the time when the husband is still married to her, the yachsel isha, you should give it back to her. The lavbas piraini, because in this time, it's not yet the time of payment at all. Why would I be concerned that the husband paid it up yet? And on that, the Rabbanan would respond to that and say, no, even if she's still married to her husband and the ksuba got lost, we're concerned that it was paid up already. Eimer tzrari atfasa. There is a possibility that the husband takes a bundle of money, puts it aside, and gives it to her, that in the event that he dies or in the event that he divorces her, she has that bundle of money ready to take for herself and she doesn't have to go and to collect the money from him. So it's possible that the husband already gave her this bundle of money. That's why the shtar of it is it's all based on the fact that this ksuba got lost. A person doesn't just lose important documents. If you lose an important document, as a reyes said, there's a big question. Why are you losing such an important document? So therefore the Rabbanan say, if she lost his ksuba, even though she was married to him, but it's a possibility that the husband already gave her a bundle of money. Ravina says a third pshat here.
Why should you give a qualification?
Because he wants her to feel confident that if something happens, if he divorces her or if he dies, she'll have that money available for right away. Ravina says another answer, Lo Elam Epech Kamaisa. No, we do switch the opinions, like we said before, that Rabbi Yossi is the one that is concerned that the money was already paid up. So, and then the Gemara asked, though, the contradiction over here in the Rabbanan's opinion. The Rabbanan in the previous Braisa regarding the shtar are not concerned that the money of a loan was paid up already. But over here regarding the ksubah, the Rabbanan say, do not return the ksubah to the Isha. Why not? So he explains over here, there's a different reason. The time of the Rabbanan hacha. The reason why over here by a ksuba that was found, that the Rabbanan say don't return the ksuba to the Isha, it's not because we're concerned it was paid up already. Rather, the reason is mishum the chashinon l'shtei ksubis. Over here, we're concerned that maybe now this woman will have in her possession two different ksubis. Why would we be concerned for this? Because what happens if you lose a ksuba? A husband is not allowed to live with his wife without having a ksuba in her possession. So therefore, when the first ksuba got lost, immediately the husband wrote a second ksuba. So now the husband is saying, don't give her back the ksuba, she's going to have two ksubas. What happens then if the husband dies? She's going to take out one ksuba and collect the ksuba one time, and then she'll come back a year later and collect the ksuba a second time. So he doesn't want her to have two ksubas. That's the concern there. But the Rabbanan are not concerned that the loan was paid up already. He's just concerned about the fact that there could be two ksubas here. Rabbi Yossi is not chayshish that there are two ksubas over here. Some Yishayim said the reason is because Rabbi Yossi holds that you can live with your wife even without having a ksuba in her possession. So there's no reason to think that he already wrote her a ksuba and there would be a second ksuba over here. So he's not chayshish for that. Rabbi Lazar said, if the ksuba got lost, then it's a problem. Yeah, if the ksuba got lost, then the husband claims that he already wrote her a second ksuba. Rabbi Lazar said, machlekes. This Rashi translates the word machlekes here different than usual. Machlekes doesn't mean the argument. The word machlekes over here means the halacha of splitting. This halacha of yachleiku that Abshimah Gamliel said before in the Braisa, when you have a shtar, the Leiv and the Malva are grabbing onto the shtar and you split the shtar. And also regarding the case where Rebbe said, when it's Mekuyim and you split the shtar, V'sheshneim adukim, the case of here is that they're both holding on to either b'taifis or shneim b'tairif, or they're both holding on to the tairif. What is the taifis and the tairif? Every shtar has two parts to it. The taifis of the shtar is the general nusach of we learned this Masechta Gittin, the general lashon of the shtar, which is the same by every single shtar. That the template of the shtar, exactly, that's the word. And then the tairif of the shtar is the specific details of this shtar. The names of the people that are involved here, the amount of money, and the date. Specific details that are relevant for this specific shtar. So if each one of them are holding on to either the template of the shtar, or they're both holding on to the specific details of this shtar, then I split it equally amongst them. Aval echad aduk b'teifis, if one of them is holding on to the template of the shtar, ve'echad aduk b'teirif, and the other one is holding on to the important details of this shtar that tells you the specific things about what this loan is. So then we don't split it equally amongst them. Then zen noitel teifis v'zen noitel teirif. So the one that's holding on to the template of the shtar just gets that template, which is really worthless. Okay, the template doesn't have any of the important details of this shtar, and v'zen noitel teirif, and the one that has all the important details that Reuven borrowed from Shimon $1,000 and this date, he gets the teirif. So if the malva is holding on to that part, he's able to collect the entire loan. But Rabbi Yechanan says no, it doesn't matter what part of the shtar you're holding on to. Lo'olam chalkin. You always divide the shtar equally, regardless what part of the shtar you're holding on to. So the Gemara asks on this, is that true? Does Rabbi Yochanan say you always divide the star equally, even if one is holding on to the template and the other one is holding on to the Tairif? But Vatanya, there's a brayso that clearly says that regarding the talis, and the same thing over here regarding the star, that each one takes what he has in his hands. So if you're holding on to the template, that's what you have in your hands, that's what you get. The other one holds on to the tatif, that's what he gets. So therefore the one that holds on to tatif should get that. Says the Gemara, the case where Rabbi Yochanan is arguing over here is, the case over here is that the tatif, none of them are holding on to it, and it's in the middle of it. So therefore, Rashi says no, that Rabbi Yochanan wasn't arguing with Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Yochanan was saying, in a case that none of them are holding on to the tatif is in the middle, and not, over there, you split it equally between them. Says the Gemara, Yachi Ma'ila Memra. If none of them are holding on to the tatif, they're just holding on both to the edges of the star, so then what's the chiddush that you divide it equally amongst them? So answers the Gemara is similar to what we had before regarding the talis, the golden talis. This important information of the star is closer to one of them. It's holding on to on one side. The time I would think to say, so he says, divide it in a way that what's closer to me, I get that part. So I get the tatif. So therefore the answer is, the Amalei says, my choz is the palkasachi ploigachi. Why are you splitting it in the length? And you end up with this part, split it in the width. So you cut it right in the center of the tatif, and therefore what that means is that the tatif is divided between them. Amalei Ravachim he asks Ravina. Rabbi Lazar the Amar, then neitel taifis v'zen neitel taif. Rabbi Lazar said that if one is just holding on to the template, so you just get the template, which is basically worthless, and the other one gets the taif, where you can use it to collect the loan with it, if it's the malva that gets it. But the question is, Lamali, what is he using the taifis for? This template is just a piece of paper. You can't collect, there's no information of the loan, you can't do anything with it. What is he using it for? Does he need it to cover his jug with this? It's just a piece of paper. Amalei, so he answers him, Lidmei. Note that it does have a certain value of money that you evaluate it for the value that it has. The Amar, Lidmei, the Amar Hachi, this over here, the Gemara 1 second. The Amar Hachi, Shtara de Isbeizman. So he said as follows. This is what Rabbi Lazar was saying. Shtara de Isbeizman Kamashavi. A star that has the date in it. What is its value? Or the less Beizman Kamashavi. And then the part of the star that does not have the date in it, what's the value of this? And so the point that the Gemara is saying over here is that when Rabbi Lazar said that you give one the taif and you give the other one the taifis is not something that has no value at all. The difference between the taif and the taifis over here is only regarding one detail. It's regarding the date of the loan. Rashi here explains that even the part of the star, which is the template of the star, the halacha when you write a star is, you have to write all the details of the star in the beginning, that Reuben borrowed money from Shimon, and it's this and this amount, and it's on this date. But then at the bottom of the star, you have to write over again. In the regular template of the star, you do have to write over again the information that it said in the beginning. So whether you're holding on to the taif, whether you're holding on to the taifis, you're going to have all the information there. The only difference is the date is written only at the top of the star, in the taif and the star, not in the taifis of the star. So it really comes out that the whole difference between the value of the taif of the star and the taifis of the star is regarding a star with a date. Are you holding on to a star with a date, or are you holding on to a star without a date? That's the only difference. And therefore we have to evaluate, if you were to sell this star, and you were to sell a star to someone, a star that has a loan in it, and you would sell someone a star with a date, or you would sell someone a star without a date. What's the difference in the value between this? And the Gemara explains, the difference is, the Isbeizman Gavim and Mishabdi. If you sell a star that has a date in it, the value of that is that now you can use the star to collect even from properties of the levy, because you know the exact date when the loan happened, so you can confiscate properties that he sold after that. But the star that does not have a date on it, like Gavim and Mishabdi. So you can't collect the mishabatim, you can't collect harkais because it doesn't have a date in it. You don't know when the loan happened. So yavleich the beini and you give him so here you have to give the difference. Okay, so in other words, you basically split this star between the two people holding on in the star, but there's still a difference between them. The one that has the taif of the star gets a little bit more of a value of the star because he's holding on to the star that has the value where it has the date on it, and he can collect from Mishabbat, and the other one doesn't. Now, the chiddush that comes out of what the Gemara is saying over here is, the shtar, let's say, has a loan of $1,000 in it. You don't split the shtar between the loive and the malve, $500 for him and $500 from him. That the loive would only have to pay back $500. That's not how you split the shtar. They're not holding on to the loan. They're holding on to the shtar. The shtar is a method to collect the loan. You collect the value of what this shtar could be sold in the market to collect the loan. So let's say the shtar has a loan of $1,000 in it. If you want to sell such a kind of shtar to someone, how much could you sell such a shtar for? Probably $800 to be able to collect the loan from it.
Depends if it has a date in it.
Okay, right. But the value of the shtar to sell it is not the value of the actual loan. So you can sell the shtar for, let's say, $800, but then there's a difference if it has a date in it or it doesn't have a date in it. So if it's, let's say, not worth $800, so the one that has the date in his hands is going to get, let's say, $500 from that, and the other one will get $300. That's how you'll split it between them. Says the Gemara, "V'yachloiku nami da'amaran." The yachloiku that we learned that it says in the Mishnah, it's also the same thing. Lidami. You're splitting the value, the money of this talis. You don't cut the talis in half itself. Just like over here, you don't cut the shtar itself in half. You don't split the actual loan written in the shtar in half. You split the value of what it can be sold for in half. So the same thing also regarding yachloiku. You don't cut the talis, but it's the value of it. Because if you're not going to say that you sell it, you see how much it could be sold for, and that's what you split between them. When it says in our Mishnah that two people hold on to a talis, what are you going to do? You're going to take this talis, or you're going to cut the talis itself in half? They're going to ruin the whole talis. You can't use it for anything. So the Gemara says, no, that's not a proof of this point. Let's just finish off this in here. Why is that not a proof of this point? Holy kashya. Because the chazil ketanim. It could be it's a talis that is a large talis that you can wrap yourself in it. You can cut it in half, and it can be used for children. So the Gemara, so that's not a proof. Maybe it could be physically split. Now, if the Gemara says, this that the Rava said, the talis musheves, what we just learned before, that if it's a golden talis, Chalken, so you split it. Hachanami de palgila. You're going to say also that you physically split it in half. Ha'af sedua. You're going to ruin this golden talis. So again, the Gemara says, "Holy kasha." That's not a proof that you split the value. The chazil ibnei malachim. You split the talis. It means that maybe it's a golden talis. It's nice golden embroidery. You split it for princes. One child, another child can use half of the talis. So that's also not a raya. Now, this that it said in the Mishnah, two people are riding on an animal, and each one claims that half of that the whole animal is his. And what do? We split the animal in half. You're going to say that you just cut the animal in half. You're going to ruin the whole animal. And the Gemara adds, if it's a kosher animal, so you can shecht it. You can physically split the meat between the two people that are arguing here. But if it's a tummy animal, you can't shecht it, you're not eating the meat. So what are you going to do? You're just going to take a donkey and cut it in half. So Ella, this is our proof. From here we see lidmei, that when it says that you split the behema, which is a tummy behema, you split it in half, it means for the value of the money. The same thing also regarding the shtar. You don't split the loan itself, you don't split the shtar itself, you split the value of what you sell the shtar for.